Hi, welcome to this video. I've been releasing a lot of these longer jams that don't give a lot of context about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So today will be kind of the opposite, and I just want to make another one of those patch from scratch videos where I really don't know in advance if this is going to turn out like crap or like something interesting. I will try to keep it somewhat simple because, well, otherwise I will be here a few hours and I don't want to spend too much time editing this video. I think it's more fun if I can record it in kind of one take without having to worry about sitting behind my computer for hours editing the wrong parts out and the parts where I say things wrong, etc. Because sometimes that can take away a little bit from, from my fun experience. So anyway, I realize you cannot see a lot of modules in focus. This is a cheap fisheye add-on lens that I put on my camera, but this way at least you can see the whole rack without me being in the way. And I think you will be able to make out enough of what's happening. For example, you will, well, I hope you will see at least that this is a nibbler. So when I patch it, I will tell you what I'm doing. And I hope that will be enough, even though it's probably a little bit out of focus. So as usual, when I start patching, I have a general idea of something that I want to try. Generally, it's something I haven't tried before. So the biggest challenge in, well, for me, making interesting patches is try to keep, I don't know how to say this in English. The biggest challenge is trying to think of things that I haven't tried before that also seem interesting. Anyway, the idea I want to try for this patch is another kind of chord video, but where I sequence the three voices in 3-body, or the three VCOs in 3-body, with separate sources that do not follow a 4/4 grid. So I, in essence, want to use 3 different sequencers with different lengths for the voices. But since I don't want to use all 3 my sequencers, I think I will resort to using at least 2 envelopes through a quantizer here. This should give me interesting results, especially when I use the end of gate or end of cycle outputs of that envelope to proceed other things in the patch. So I will be just using mats here. It's easy because I can use the scaled outputs. So I'll just turn on the looping here for these envelopes, and I'm just, well, setting them to something arbitrary. Well, let's first listen if these VCOs are all in tune. I have to this is panned to the left. Try to keep the volume a little bit down. I want to use cycle 5 as a reference. Well, because it's difficult to knock this out of tune, and it's a good reference. simply because of that. It is of course also very stable. I do this by ear. And I think, well, I still had them tuned, but this is good enough. So usually I turn around the tuning, or I change the tuning all the time, but for the last few chord patches I haven't touched the coarse or fine tune knobs. So that's why they were still in tune. Usually I spend a little bit more time getting them in tune. So let's just run a scaled output of mats here through one side of scales. I will just use this in dual mode, so the left and the right part are kind of independent quantizers. They use the same scale and there's a few shared settings. I won't get into that. So this is the left channel of mats. For now I will use this for the center VCO on 3-body. Let's run it just... No, maybe I should... Well, let's do this right from the start. I will run this into a VCF. Can this cable reach? Well, barely, but well, it does. And I've been using this combo a lot lately, so the SVVCF and the MA35, where I'm using one as a high pass and the second one as a low pass. When I want to change this up a little bit, let's use the SVVCF as a mixer because it has 3 inputs, and let's use the high pass output running into the Synta system VCF. I was just talking to Hoofjaw how much I love this filter, and I don't think I have ever used it for chords yet. So let's listen to how this sounds. Finally some sound, and of course this sounds like... I wanted to say sounds like shit, but well, that's all very subjective. Let's tune down the attenuator. Let's turn down X, I wanted to say. So let's turn down the attenuator. And change the envelope shape a little bit. Maybe I should exclude some notes. What I can do is trigger this quantizer, so it will only sample the note when it's receiving a trigger. Let's see if I can make this work. Of course, now we're once again tied to a 4/4 type of grid or a steady clock, which was what I wanted to avoid. But, well, let's see where this brings us. Usually, when I have an idea, I start doing something else anyway. So this is the middle VCO of 3-body. Let's now sequence the right VCO of 3-body. Oh, butterfingers. Let's use the saw wave output as well, going into the SVVCF. So what's happening here? Let me see if I can... So I wonder what I'm doing wrong here. Because clearly there should be something happening. Okay, the envelope is working. Ah, but I changed up. Yes, I think that's what I was trying to do. And now let's bring back in the middle VCO. And by using two independently cycling sources, like I said, you could use several sequencers with different lengths or even different speeds. You will end up with different harmonies all the time. Well, it should remain somewhat musical. Oh, because I'm using a quantizer. And I can play around with the scaling of these envelopes. I probably can even send in negative voltages. That's not. And now for the first voice, I wanted to do something else. Well, I will have to use a quantized sequencer now. Let's just use Moskwa. And I'm using a minor scale, so let's set this. Well, it's still at a minor scale. I can use shorter cable for this. So again, I'm just using the saw wave. I just log like saw waves. And let's now connect the sequencer. The sequencer is not clocked at the moment. I kind of like how this sounds already. But maybe I should add some kind of clocking to this. Let's use this. So Zolaric Repetitor is currently at a setting where it's just doing probability gates. I really use this setting a lot. I like the control over probability. In this SVVCF there's a CP3 mixer similar to the DTM of Manhattan Analog. So to keep it cleaner you really have to turn down the input gains. So this one is doing the high passing, and then the synthesis system is doing the low passing. And I like how this sounds. Now I should try and add some kind of movement to the filter, so let's just use this probability gate again, and I'll use contour as an envelope generator here. Can the cable reach? It's always the question, can this cable reach? Now the downside of not using the MA35 as the last filter in the chain is that I don't have a built-in VCA in either of these two filters. I have here the mod mix, but I don't really like it. Well, not as a regular VCA. There's always some kind of weird saturation happening that I really don't like. Let's go up, or maybe no, I can just use mix 3 here. I will probably just end up using one chain, but well, doesn't really matter. And I can use the same output here. I'm just using a stackable here to make things easier. Now this is the downside of mix 3. It can be really, really hot. I don't dislike how this sounds, but maybe it's a little bit too much. So let's try using another envelope generator here. Let's just use what I have, and that's the dual ADSR. There must be some offset to this dual ADSR because it's closing completely, which is not how I intended this to sound. So, well, let's use something else then. I'll just route the output of the filter through through a delta V here. Let's use that as a what am I doing? Using that as a VCA and envelope combo. So like that. So I'm using an output of the probability gate into the trigger input of the delta V. I'm sending audio into the VCA input, and then I'm just going to monitor the output. And for this patch, I think this works better. I can add an output of orbit 3 to the filter CV input here. Let's attenuate it with bias 2. It doesn't need to be offsetted, so this input. And I like how this sounds, but I think I want to add some nice clocked delay here from this old school Vino Echo that I bought from my friend Claudie Focan. Well, it's not, I didn't pay him money. I swapped another module with him that I did not use anymore. And I don't think he was using this, so well, I'm very happy with it, the swap, Claudie Focan. Let's clock this with a melted output of Pamela's new workout. Now what this delay is really good at is this. I think this is really nice. Let's slow down or turn down the probability for Moskwa 2 a bit. So if I just mute these two VCOs, we're just listening to the VCO on 3 body that's been sequenced by Moskwa 2. Let's add a 5th and a 6th step here. Let's add some random play. And I think I should turn down the feedback and the wet dry on the delay here as well. Yes, I think that's a little bit better. Sometimes I really like to turn up the wet dry very high, like halfway. But I think for this patch it's a bit too much. So So let's listen to the center VCO that's being sequenced by this left envelope here on Maths through scales. And then the right VCO being sequenced by the right side of Maths. So these are very similar. Which is clear when we listen to them both. But I think it would be hard to find a pattern in this repeating, in these repeating notes, because the rate at which they loop is completely independent, and also completely independent from our clock, which is feeding a probability gate anyway. So yeah, let's bring in the first VCO again. Let's introduce some cross modulation. Let's try these. I find these cross modulation patches work for chords when you really just add a little bit. And sometimes it does not work, which to me is clearly what's happening right now. No, let's leave it without cross modulation. Sometimes this really sounds cool, like adding some interesting distortion to the signal. But I guess when I manually sequence these harmonies, for some reason the way I sequence notes in chords makes so they play nice when cross modulated, and this more random approach gives rise to dissonance. Ideally, I would want to add one more, at least one more thing, but I think for this video I will keep it at adding just one more thing. Let's use cycle 5 here. Let's run this through the M835. Now all of this time I thought we were listening in stereo, but my mixer channels are still centered, so let's pan all of this left and right. Yeah, that's already better. Let's see how cycle 5 is doing. So what I wanted to do was add some kind of ARP on top, but now that I'm hearing this, I think we need some kind of bass instead. I need to sequence this with, well, what I have left, or maybe step 8. Can I do this with step 8? Yes, but that's a little bit fiddly to get the notes just right, so let's choose Mimetic Digitalis. Yes. So let's turn it down one more octave. So now I'm just going to step through these 16 steps manually and turn each of the steps to a value that I like. By pressing in the encoder, you switch in halftone steps, which is the reason that I'm choosing this right now over step 8. No, let's just do it like this. So this is one octave above the root note. Let's keep that in. Not thinking about the progression here, I'm just choosing values that I like, and I add more steps of the values that I like. I will sequence this randomly anyway, so that's why I'm not thinking of a progression, rather choosing the right notes and a certain weight to them by adding the amount of steps that that note is there, if that does make any sense. Okay, let's now add a random and I'll just use a clock output into a spare channel of delta V here for my well, the envelope for the bass and the VCA as well. So this will give us some kind of repetitive well, I think yes, this is kind of what I was going for, but it needs to be longer. I think this sounds really nice, and well, since I have this 4 to the floor trigger running here anyway, I can just as well add a kick drum to this. And just like that, we have what I think is a cool track. And there's certainly some randomness or chaos to this. In fact, let's add a little bit of chaos to maybe this one. Really pleased with how this sounds. Can I add one more thing here? No, let's try a hi-hat. I don't know if this is still connected. This is. I think I will keep it at this, because, well, when I start adding things, usually I don't stop anymore. And I think the patch is kind of contained as it is. So it's easy to go back and understand what I did. I did nothing groundbreaking here. This is just a subtractive synthesis patch on a modular system. Probably the only real interesting thing that's happening here that grants this being made on a modular system is the sequencing, which is completely, well, kind of random, maybe more chaotic. And I can turn down these probability gates, which should change how often we get new values for the chords and the bass. Now, one more thing that I want to do, even though I said I was going to stop, is add a slight LFO to the transpose input here on 3-body, and you will hear instantly what this does. Is to keep this really, really attenuated. I'll just let this play for another minute or so. Thank you very much for watching, and apologies for not having posted a lot of technical videos, extensive playthroughs, etc. It's been a while since I had the mental bandwidth for doing those. But every once in a while I really enjoy making these jams, and well, I think this is maybe more interesting for people who are looking for some more insights, etc. Thanks for sticking around. Bye.